Hey team, I am in the middle of look, I've been inside 100 deals and I'm in the middle of brokering, what like probably the single most popular listing that I have ever been involved in, either as a buyer, as a seller, as a broker, as a minority investor, whatever it is. And I want to share with you, what's happening inside the deal and some takeaways that we can learn on as a buyer. Okay, so my name is Walker Deibel. I am the Wall Street Journal bestselling author of Buy Then Build, creator of Acquisition Lab, the elite accelerator. Listen, so this business, I have turned away 100 people that are trying to talk to the seller. Over 100 people. Okay, we've been at market for 1 week today, and it's one of these where people are now, trying to, they're like, look, like I've bought 3 companies in this space before, and I'm paying cash, and I'm like, out. You're not in. And it's one of these where people are doing whatever they can. Now the seller, I scheduled 21 calls with potential buyers, and the thing is I know that after about 10 or 12 sellers, they just start to fizzle out. It's like, imagine, for example, that, you own a company and you're interviewing for a role that you have. After about, 12 interviews of people who, are competent, you're getting worn out quick. Okay. And, keep in mind, that's like 12 hours of interviewing. So she was a champ. She got through 15 hours of, buyer seller calls. And ultimately, she now has, as of this morning, 26 offers in hand. Okay. So, 2 things. One, what made this so possible? What made this so popular? And, how can I, win at deals like that? And second, how is the seller deciding on who the buyers are? Like, what is the process? Okay. So, first is, what's making it so popular? Look, this seller is, Ivy League education, worked corporate, in a big startup that became a huge firm and across many divisions, is really good at teams and processes, and did exactly that. She bought a business that was, I don't want to say a mess, it was just very analog, and she, dialed it all in, has SOPs everywhere, built a team, and did all that, but she doesn't love working on growth. That feels like work to her. And I was able to identify with her a number of ways that the business can grow, that it really appears to be like low-hanging fruit sort of category stuff. Okay. It's very easy to understand, easily, very approachable to do. And so I think that, one, it kind of has these, a lot of entrepreneurs can sort of read, the package and be like, look, like everything's dialed in and it's primed for growth. And I believe that story. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, the seller carries herself very well, very professional. Her reasons for selling are very clear. And so I think a lot of people, they don't worry about that in this particular instance. Third, the financials are up and to the right, even without her doing anything on growth. Fourth, and this is a big one. Well, the industry is very popular, but in fifth, and this is a big one, is, I spent 4 months with her building out a package in terms of getting the P&L right, not overstating, the ad backs, not getting, greedy, leaving some Easter eggs in there, and then, pricing it, fairly. And then ultimately, because we spent so long writing the package, it just hums. Like everybody, it just really sells the business. Okay. And so I think that it's one of these where I had to do a lot of work to really convince myself how awesome this was. And I kept finding these little things. And I kept building out, pages around like, hey, like, look at this and look at this and look at this. And I think just stacking those things up communicated very effectively, and, not to mention I'm a best-selling author, but, the point is it communicated very effectively, sort of like the benefits and the risks, and like what makes this such a, interesting acquisition. And so as a result of spending all that time and putting it together, we've got a massive amount of interest that the seller can't even, she can't even talk to everybody. So, um, the point here is that, something like 40 to 70% of businesses listed for sale never sell. Okay. This the private capital markets, especially in the sub $25 million transaction category, okay, are unregulated. Okay, there's no license that you need. There's no, one way to sell things. There's no none of this stuff. And so a lot of, brokers, in my opinion, don't spend enough time putting together a very convincing package. Often, they'll have like last year's financial statements like not even included. It's just sort of like, what am I looking at? It's not together. It's not tight. And the business broker model is very different. It's sort of like, hey, let's get volume of listings, tell sellers what they need to know in order to sign with us and not someone else, and then just sort of like get it out there and some percentage will sell. Okay. Um, I think it's backwards. I like to spend a lot of time putting together the package and really, telling the story of the business that, we're putting together. So they're trying to sell. So, and what makes it a good deal. And by the way, I have a rule where if people approach me in my broker role, I'm not allowed to buy their company because it's a conflict of interest, both between me and the seller and also between the market and the buyers that I'm, brokering deals to, right? So I can't buy it. I don't have time in this particular case to buy it, but it's a very interesting business, and I think it's easy to understand, it's easy to approach, and it's also got that very popular cash flow. So how do you break through and buy a company like this? I would argue it's actually the other way. Look for brokers that are doing a terrible job. Not kidding. Okay, look for ones that have not spent the time to put a package together, and then you spend the time to put the package together. Okay. And I think that, communicating with the brokers is going to be tough in that instance, but ultimately, we've got a number of people in the lab who, when they find the best deals, it's not really off-market deals, but it's also not necessarily winning out in, super competitive buyer situations, which is where great deals are. But also but specifically looking at deals where, they're getting tired. They've been at market for a while. And like, it's really because the fair weather buyers haven't taken the time to really understand the value that this business provides. And, it sort of looks unattractive. But once you start getting in there, you start to begin to understand the opportunity that like the broker didn't really communicate very well. I think there's a lot of gold in those. Now, search fund investors will tell you find a great business and be prepared to pay a lot for it. That's clearly the situation we're in right now. Now, the seller has not chosen a buyer as of today. Okay. By the time this video comes out, it's going to be already sold. But the point is like, how is this buyer sort of going through 26 offers, 21 scheduled calls, 15 completed, she canceled the other six. And it's just sort of like, okay, how do I start to think about this? Right. So the champagne problem is what she has. She has the problem that all of us, hope that we have. At one day in our life. I've never had this problem as a seller. I can't wait to have it myself. But the point is like, obviously the market was starting to push the value of the business up. I actually priced it on purpose to do that because I wanted people to read the package. It was all kind of done on purpose. And sure enough, the market said, hey, Walker, you've put a fair price on this, but we're kind of going to push it up to sort of the ceiling of, where a business like this would transact for. Okay. Which coincidentally is about where she bought it. So that makes sense. So anyway, so how is she doing it? Well, we got on the phone and I said, look, you've got some options here. And I say this to a lot of sellers I work with. It's like, look, we can, you know, number one, take everybody that you've talked to, take everyone that you had the scheduled call with, take everyone that put an LOI, whatever the thing is, fly them all out to St. Louis. I'll put them in a conference room. I'll walk up to the person with the lowest offer. I'll shoot them in the face right in front of everybody else. I'll say, you guys have 4 hours to come up with your best and highest offer. Shut the door, lock it, and then just crank up the heat to 120 degrees and then open the door in 4 hours and see what the offers are. Okay, that's option one. And some sellers want me to do that. I hate it. It's not conducive to deals that are going to close. Okay. And it forces people to come up with offers to win a bidding war and not necessarily the business will cash flow or what the bank will finance or what can get done. Okay. So that's neither nor there. It's also not, it's not conducive to, a willing buyer and a willing seller under a common goal. It's sort of stressing the situation at the start line, right? So, getting deals closed is frankly more important than, getting them under offer, because ultimately the goal is to close the transaction, not just to get under offer, right? I think we all agree to that. Now, so, the other option is, you can pick one person and be like, who do you like out of all these people? And I can call them and say like, look, here is, like, here is the best offer. Do you want to match it? yes or no, and if so, it's yours. You have 4 hours to figure it out or whatever, or some version of that, like that's an option. Option two is let's come up with finalists and then we can sort of choose next steps. You can do a highest and best round. We can sort of, but we need to start to hack away, all these people. And the problem we had is after 15 calls, okay, after 15 hours with potential buyers, she had 14 really competent, great buyers. Okay. The one person that wasn't competent, their name is just kidding. I'm not going to tell you. But the point is like we had one person that was just sort of like, okay, this was a, they seemed competent beforehand, and it was like that this isn't the right option. They were very clearly not a good fit. But 14 were great. Out of all of the calls we had scheduled, we even had, repeat buyers from other things in our firm that were, on. Reputation wise, they're great. Out of the, 26 offers we have, again, that like the majority of them are very, very competent. Let's just say that she's got 24 very competent, wonderful buyers. How on earth, right? So how are you going to start to scrape them away? Well, what she came up with, which was very close to what I do, but she came up with her own little matrix, and it was very similar to mine, or rubric, I should call it, not a matrix. And so it's sort of like commitment to buying a business, scale from 1 to 5. Um, uh, the the ability to succeed post transaction on a scale from 1 to 5, with the business. Third is what is their offer on a scale from 1 to 5, and then finally was their ability to get financing. Obviously, she doesn't have a lot of information on their ability to get financing, and frankly, neither do I in the broker role. But the thing is that in this particular case, the lender is the one who, has the current loan and desperately wants the new loan as well. And so, I got from the lender that all these people are fully competent. My advice to her was don't worry about the offer. All these people want the deal. And so, if we're just trying to get it down to, a smaller group, don't worry about that offer because the market is sort of telling us what it's going to sell for. Okay. So that just came down to not only commitment to buying a business, but commitment to buying her business. Okay. And then ability to succeed post transaction, because of course that's what's important to her. Right. And so I think a lot of times as buyers, we come to the table and we're like, hey, what are sort of the qualitative things? And I talk about this, and by the bit, what are sort of the qualitative things that you're interested in, right? And how do I stand out as a buyer? And I think that, just sort of communicating, your commitment to buying the business and communicating, your unique ability and not only your unique ability, but your ability to apply it to this specific growth opportunity. And what's happening is sort of the little things that make the big difference from the sell side in terms of, what they want, whether it be like, keeping all their people employed, continuing to grow the business, legacy, all the rest of it. Obviously, and seriously, no seller wants to sell their business to someone who's going to fail. Every seller wants someone who's going to succeed after buying that business and just think wonders of, that seller and be thankful for having them sell you the business. Look, if you want to buy a business in the next, 1 to 24 months, check out the Acquisition Lab. This is exactly what I needed 20 years ago when I got started. I bought, 10 companies over the last 18 years myself. And, I've been inside over 100 transactions. I taught ETA at, Olin School of Business, all the things. Okay. And so the concept here is, anchor in world-class education, focus on higher order thinking, and, create curriculum around this private capital market to help people get educated and know what to do, along with, the same tools and the same language and all the, all the rest of it. Second is a truly vetted community. Only about 30% of our applicants are extended an offer to enroll. Please don't let that scare you. You watching this video can get in. It's just one of these where, not everybody is ready yet. And so we try to help those people that cannot get in yet, but also it elevates the group to the point that 35% of our group is actually closing on businesses to the tune of over 350 million over the last few years. And, we take no broker fees. We don't invest in the companies. We take no equity. We are just 100% aligned with the buyer on this. And it's the first do it with you buy side advisory service ever. It was all engineered on purpose. Third is all the tools, resources, broker networks, modeling spreadsheets, all the rest of it that I use, that I've used for the last 20 years to buy these companies. And then lastly, we've got 6 advisory calls every single week. I run the search forum every other week where we go deep on your deal. And so with lifetime access, you are literally able to talk to someone every single day about your search, about your deal, about due diligence, about, the emotional components. Not to mention, we have a full Slack channel. It's very active. We have a couple of Slack specific advisors in there. It is the best thing since sliced bread. And if you actually want to buy a business, there's simply nothing better out there, period. And we'll see you on the inside. Thanks.